A good Thursday morning to you, and a welcome to another edition of Our Town here on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. My name is Darren Swenson. Our Town, as always, brought to you by our good friends at Decorah Bank and Trust. A little later on in the program, we'll have our monthly chat with Waukon City Manager Gary Boden, but our first guest this morning is Allie McIntire from Winneshiek County Extension, discussing a variety of topics. Allie starts our show next. It's Our Town. It's brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust, and you're listening to it on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. Having a conversation this morning with Allie McIntire. She is with Iowa State University Extension in Winneshiek County, discussing a variety of topics with her this morning. And Allie, let's start out with farm management here in Winneshiek County. What are you seeing as some of the trend when it comes to land prices and cash rent when it comes to farmland in our neck of the woods?
Sure, yes. We're getting lots of questions about cash rent here in Winneshiek County. A new survey just came out in May. The survey was taken across the state of Iowa, and they collect data to see what land prices are going for per tillable acre. So corn and soybeans right now, if you go to Ag Decision Maker on our extension page, it will explain it more in detail depending on which county you're from. It breaks it out. So right now, corn and soybeans per tillable acre in Winneshiek County, high quality land is going for $345. Medium value land is $298, and then low quality land is $244. So that is for corn and soybeans per tillable acre in Winneshiek County. Another question we're getting is on hay and pasture rental rate in Winneshiek County. We'll kind of just tell you the average here in Northeast Iowa. It goes by Northeast Iowa on this. Alfalfa hay per tillable acre is $216, and then we'll just do a highly productive pasture, and that is $101 per tillable acre. So that's kind of what we're getting a lot of questions about here in our office right now. And then we also do provide rental contracts if people are looking for those.
And does your study provide what direction those land values and rent values are going as compared to maybe 6 months ago?
So you can look back on the trend for several years. Every single year is listed on our website, and it's an upward trend. So
And
go ahead.
Excuse me, I'm interrupting. You're the guest. I'm the interviewer, so I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Nope, you're good. So yeah, we're District 4, and I think it went up like $1, but it is going up. So from last year.
And of course, in your office, horticultural issues is one of your many fields of expertise. What are folks contacting you about when it comes to horticulture issues this time of year?
So we're getting lots of questions about like insects and stuff. So we do ID insects. We do get people bringing in insects to ID or pictures of insects. We have been getting pictures of like June bugs, getting commonly mixed up with Japanese beetles. Japanese beetles aren't quite here yet. They will be soon, usually in the next couple weeks. Japanese beetles do eat horticulture crops, and a lot of people will see linden trees on the street and the leaves are completely eaten off. That would be Japanese beetle damage. So we're getting some questions about that. Another question we're getting is, why is my peonies plant not blooming? There could be different things going on. The most common one I've been seeing is your peonies plant is planted in the shade, so it's not getting enough light to bloom. And the tuber underneath the ground is planted too deep, so they won't bloom. So that's usually the two questions, the popular questions we're getting this time of year. We do take other questions, hort related, lawn related, tree related, shrub related, anything lawn and garden. We will try to help you answer. So.
And in general, since you're getting the question a lot, I'll ask you now, what is the difference between a June bug and a Japanese beetle?
Okay, so they're obviously both beetles. Japanese beetles, are smaller than a June beetle. I wish I could show you pictures, but the Japanese beetles are shinier, and it's about mid-June they come out. They're everywhere, I guess, coming out. And the June beetle is bigger and it's brown. So I guess that would be the most common thing to describe on here. But yes, we do get a lot of Japanese beetle questions of IDing them, and a lot of leaves come in and ask, what do you think's eating this, or stuff like that. So.
And I know certain parts of the country are dealing with the cicadas in a major way as of right now. Has that been an issue in our neck of the woods yet? And will it be an issue when
So
area?
the periodical cicadas, there's the regular cicadas, which I don't remember the scientific name, and then there's the periodical ones that come out every 13-ish years. They are to hit central to eastern Iowa. I'm not sure if they'll get as far north up here, but they are coming. They're not quite here yet. Last report I heard they were in Illinois, so they're making their way north. So,
And any particular reason why they've had such a major impact already and probably will continue to have a major impact throughout the summer?
yeah, so I think the major impact is, it's every 13 years and there's a lot of them. They're not going to harm you. It's just, they're just very noisy, and they will, in areas they are covering structures up and stuff, but they are very loud. But they will not hurt you. So I think that's the main concern of the public. So.
And of course, in your office, you offer many events. You offer many forms of programming. Why don't you go over just a few of the things you got going on here in the not too distant future?
Sure, yeah. So right now we do have a donation garden up at our Winneshiek County Extension office. So we do take volunteers for that. So we have a garden planted with vegetables, and we grow produce and we donate to the food pantry. So we are working on that right now. And then I would say the next two upcoming events are, we have a pasture walk in Winneshiek County, which is happening at Jules on Pole Line Road there. So the pasture walk will be June 25th, a Tuesday night at 6 p.m. If you need more information, it's located on our website. But we will be parking in a parking lot hay field, and we'll be loading wagons, and then they basically take you around the fields, the pastures, I guess, and they will talk about different topics like grazing management to cover crops to pasture cost shares and stuff like that. Our bee specialist will be leading that, Denise Schwab, along with the Jewel family and some folks from the NRCS. One other program we got coming up, we have an Ag Outlook seminar coming up. And that's on dairy. That is June 27th at Emptiness Winery. There'll be some dairy specialists there, some specialists coming from Wisconsin, and that is, I believe, 9 to 3 at Empty Nest. And they'll just talk about all the ag outlooks of dairy, which I'll be interested to get an update too. So.
And if folks have questions for you and folks want to find out more about your programming, how can they do so?
Sure. You are welcome to just give us a call here at the Extension office, 563-382-2949, or we do have everything posted on our website or on Facebook.
All right. Anything we're missing? Anything else you want to pass on from the Extension office, as long as you got the forum this morning?
Yeah, sure. I guess we are busy prepping for the Winneshiek County Fair. So our youth staff is out there getting ready for that too. So we hope you all come out and join that and support the 4-H staff or the 4-Hers. So.
All right, Allie, we appreciate you taking some time to tell us everything going on at Winneshiek County Extension Service. Basically, a plethora of activities always, and summer is a fun time of year with the county fair season starting, as you just mentioned, here in the not too distant future. Allie, appreciate the time, and thanks for what you do for our community.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Allie McIntire with Winneshiek County Extension. Time now for our monthly discussion with Waukon City Manager Gary Boden, updating us on what is going on in the city of Waukon. And Gary, I know over the last month there's been a lot of talk about the process related to the budget. And I know at this time of year, you look at pretty much any government entity, there's public hearings and actions by the elected officials for budget amendments on the current year's budget. Why is that so? Why is that mechanism in place for pretty much any agenda that you look at this time of year?
Well, first of all, there's deadlines that the state has established for which the budgets for all municipalities and county governments and school districts have to be filed by. And in fact, the city council in Waukon approved our budget on April the 1st. After public hearing that night, although we've had plenty of hearings and plenty of public discussions about the budget from January into when it was approved. We had since looked at making some budget amendments for the existing budget, not the current budget, but the existing budget to finish out the year, and at the same time to try and establish some small capital improvement funding for projects that typically were off budget, but still within our capability of funding if we were to able to execute a borrowing.
And the mechanisms are in place to shift some things around. It's not a case, from what I understand, of you spending any more money in the current budget. It's just a basically a shift to make sure you're taking care of those responsibilities that you need to. Is that a fair way of putting it, or is that perhaps too simple?
I think that's pretty fair. I mean, we've had some emergency expenditure needs here, like for the roof, which has now become an issue that is going to be rectified, as well as a replacement of the HVAC, which became a problem here that needs to be rectified. You know, we were looking at short-term borrowing, really, and at very favorable rates. The city was looking to borrow $200,000 that would be paid off in 4 years at a 3.45% interest rate. And at the same time, we have money invested as far as our operating funds are concerned on a laddering basis at 5.05% on average. So we actually were in a position to kind of make a little money, but that did not happen. And as a result, we are still spending money that we need to spend to make these improvements. And simultaneously, what it'll do is just draw down our fund balance. The fact is that our fund balance is something that we've been very closely monitoring for the reasons of the property tax reforms that the state government has passed. We've talked about this many times. And we have, like I think most cities, some trepidation about what's going to happen in the future. I don't think we're going to be a problem in fiscal 25, which is what we reported, but our intent was to actually increase the fund balance, our reserve, if you will, for operating costs, so that in the future we'd have more of a cushion than what we've had traditionally. But now that's not going to happen. And in fact, for all intents and purposes, we're going to be back at where we were prior to this fiscal year as far as maintaining a fund balance. And we're still going to have to watch to see what happens in the future as far as our abilities to save more money, at the same time be able to cushion a blow of future impacts of property tax reform.
And one issue I know you and I have discussed a lot on these programs is the issue of housing. And at the most recent city council meeting, the council discussed a housing construction revolving loan fund. Explain what their decision was and what that will do.
Well, that housing revolving loan fund is still to be formally deliberated and assumedly approved by the council. This is going to be contingent upon the city receiving its final proposal from Ben Garrett and his people to do the duplex subdivision off of 9th Street Northwest on the Bresnahan property that the city bought about 10 years ago for stormwater detention. We have extra ground available, and it's been long contemplated that a portion of it would be developed for duplexes. And we have a relationship with Ben Garrett right now, for which we will, we're working on. I mean, quite literally, I have a phone call with him tomorrow about this, along with all kinds of other people involved with the development. But the idea would be is that we would establish a revolving construction loan fund. In other words, for developers to build, they have a lot of carrying costs until the project is sold. So what we're trying to do is put together a $50,000 revolving loan fund to help offset that construction loan cost, but that with the understanding that it would be paid back to us at the time of the sale of the property, and we just keep revolving it and revolving it until the project's been exhausted. The nice thing about this project is that it's already acknowledged that part of our formal agreement will be a cost sharing, or I should say a profit sharing opportunity for the city. The idea is that above 10% cost earnings or profit earnings, anything above 10%, the city would split 50-50 of all of the sales that would go normally just to the developer would go to us, and we would put it into the revolving loan fund. So this would be something that we could build for the future. And once this fund is completed, or once the project's completed, this money would be available for other contractors to try and build housing, assumedly, to help them with their carrying costs to help incentivize the development. This is not an uncommon practice in other cities, particularly larger cities that try to incentivize housing development. But as the situation, given the way the housing markets are right now, it's a situation for which we need to try as a community to try and get housing started. And this is one of the ways that we do it.
I know it was brought up at the last council meeting that there's some work being done on an Iowa Economic Development Authority grant, and you hope to have that on the meeting agenda coming up next week. Anything more specific to say about that?
That is actually going to be on the agenda. It is a workforce development tax credit grant, which is expected to convey $1 million to the project that's estimated at $4.5 million. That will bring down the cost significantly and allow us to have rent rates that we think will be attractive for people that are teachers, hospital workers, factory workers, farm laborers, that all could afford this kind of an apartment house. And that, in fact, we don't really have that kind of housing available, not just in Waukon, but throughout McIntire County and even beyond the region of McIntire County. We think it's a significant need that needs to be addressed. We have one housing study that shows that we need about 240 similar type 2-bedroom units. And at full build out, this is a 2-phase project. The first 36 units is in this proposal, and another 36 assumedly will be following, but that will only take care of about 1/3 of the need. But at least it's a step in the right direction. And as a result, we hope that there will be a churning, if you will, of housing availabilities to create more opportunity. But right now, apartment housing and rental housing is probably the way that we need to go, because single family housing is incredibly expensive, and the traditional starter home situation is just really out of the cost range of a lot of people. And that's why we're trying to do rentals at this point in time in our community.
I know you have a community visioning steering committee that has been formed, and from what I understand, they have a design workshop for community involvement coming up in the near future. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And explain a little more on that.
Well, I think the thing about this is that we're probably looking at more of quality of life type of projects that have transportation, particularly pedestrian and passive transportation as opposed to vehicular. Although that could blend into things like park development, and it could blend into other things that might be a broader scope. But that is the initiation here, is just to try and find opportunities for which we could develop pathing, for instance, as a significant example, or park development and things of that sort.
And that committee has been meeting for a while with that big picture focus, correct?
Correct. They've been going at it since I think just after Thanksgiving time, and we're getting close to the point where a product, if you will, a plan will evolve. I would expect in the next 2 or 3 months.
I know no action was taken at the last council meeting on this issue, but the issue of the Veterans Memorial Hospital Gunderson Building clinic transfer was brought up and discussed a little bit. What's going on with that?
It's going as planned and as proceeded. I think there was a misunderstanding by some members of the public as to just exactly how that project was put together and approved. And in fact, there's been no change since the council adopted, along with VMH, the transfer that occurred last October. There was a concern about the property taxation of this being lost because the city transferred the hospital to VMH. Well, that's just absolutely not true. And in fact, that was reported at the last council meeting. And I have heard no other pushback since. I think the circumstance here is that, the issue was raised, and it was raised without having the proper information available for the people that levied the concern.
Now let's get to the
ask us to begin with. So or for that matter, the hospital people.
Fair enough. Let's get on to the big issue: chickens in the city. What's up with that?
Well, the council is going to deal with this not at this upcoming meeting, but the following meeting. There's another renewed effort. I say another renewed because it's happened about 2 or 3 times. Some prior to my even being here almost 5 years ago now. But there are people that feel that chickens could and should be raised in our community. They've been able to advance through the process of having a council address this issue. At this point in time, I have no sense for which direction it's going to go, and the council is going to deliberate on this in earnest, I believe, on the June 17th meeting this month.
All right, that's what's covered on my Microsoft Word document, or any other computer company of your credit. I'm using Microsoft Word. Anything else, as long as you have the forum that the public needs to know in your mind?
Well, I think the thing about what's happening here is that not only are we having these housing things going on, but there's commercial development that's going on, and there's going to be a lot of discussion, I think, in the near future about the Quick Start development on what would be Rossville Road, and I think that's something that will be of interest to many people in the public, and is something that is being worked on behind the scenes. A proposal will come forward to the city maybe as early as the end of June or the beginning of July.
All right, Gary, we appreciate your time and the information as always. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you.
Gary Boden, City Manager of Waukon. Thank you to our guest on the program, Winneshiek County Extension Office, Allie McIntire, joined us to discuss a variety of topics. And as always, we thank Gary Boden for taking some time to tell us what's going on in the city of Waukon. Don't forget, we put these shows on YouTube each and every week, so you can watch this interesting information, this good information, these interesting people on your schedule. Go to 5-30 Our Town program. That's a great way to pick up the Slack if you're not able to be near a radio nor a streaming device at 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning. And we also put these links on all of our Facebook pages of all of our LA Communications radio stations. It's the best way we can keep the community in touch with you here at LA Communications. Thank you to our guests. Thank you to our sponsor, Decorah Bank and Trust. And we thank you, that's right, you, for tuning in, for logging on, and for watching our town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River.